Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for your patience. Having a little bit of technical difficulties over here. So I'm just trying to figure things out, and I don't want to belabor trying to figure things out over here. So I thank you again for your patience and for joining me tonight for, as the slide says, how to crush the BGOC Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship. If y'all knew what was going on behind here with me here in this house, well, let me just introduce myself first before I get into all the chaos and the crazy that was going on. I am Monica, and I am the founder and CEO of Black Girl on Campus, also known as BGOC, where I take the overwhelm out of all things college for African American girls who will be or are first generation college students. And I want to thank you again for joining me for today's live right here on YouTube, on the BGOC YouTube, where I'm sharing the insider tips, as I've been promoting, on what I look for when I'm reviewing applications for the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship. I'll get into why that's a scholarship name and why I started it in a second. But I wanted to share a little information about me. So let me get to that. Hello. A little information about me. I am a proud alumni of the University at Albany, which is located in Albany, New York. There is an Albany State in Georgia, but I went to the University at Albany in the state capital of New York. And I worked for several years in the entertainment industry, particularly in record companies. And I have had the opportunity to meet and work with some of the biggest music artists that are around. I'm not even going to get into the list and naming them and talking about them, but I have worked with a lot of people, and it was an awesome time while I was in the industry. I'm also a former nonprofit professional because once I decided to leave the music industry, yes, I decided to leave all that fun behind. I decided I wanted to do that because I wanted to give my skills and my talents in a different way. So I landed an opportunity that I loved as a department head at a nonprofit in New York that managed an annual budget in the millions of dollars. And that was totally like, I loved it. I really did. But then during the pandemic, I decided that I wanted to do more of what I was doing with BGOC. And at that time, BGOC was a side hustle. So, with the pandemic and it got real crazy and just the focus was a lot. But I decided I really wanted to do more of that. I wanted to give back in a different way on the BGOC side. So I quit that nonprofit job to focus 100% on being an entrepreneur and helping African American girls on their path to and in college who were first generation college students just like I was. So that's why BGOC exists. Because I was a first gen and I know everything and all the crazy and how that was so hard and just trying to figure things out. So that's why I started BGOC. So that's enough about me. Let's get into the real reason why you're here today, and that is to learn how, as the first slide said, to crush the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship. This is the tech stuff I'm talking about, y'all. If y'all knew what was happening over here, like seriously, I can't even. But we're getting into it. We're getting into the meat of things. In the background of this slide, you will see a photo of my mom, Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton, who on Father's Day 2020 passed away peacefully. It was after some illness and the pandemic and just, a lot was going on. Thank goodness it wasn't, she had been sick, and I'm not going to get into all that, but she passed away on Father's Day 2020. And at 86, my mom lived an absolutely amazing life. No regrets at all. See, she left Chester, South Carolina. That's where she was from. And she came up here to the big city of New York because that's where I'm based. She was at about 17 years old at the time. But you know what? She hit the ground running with a high school diploma, and she literally never looked back. She worked her way up from a record store clerk to an area supervisor of a popular record store chain. I know records and CDs and all of that is like old school. I know. But she did that for like the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s. So the scholarship was established in July 2020 to provide financial assistance to college-minded Black girls who are graduating seniors in the fund year. So basically, you're graduating in June of this year, and you will be going to college in the fall. And the scholarship is here to help you in that pursuit of higher education. So why did I start the scholarship? I started it because, when I started BGOC back in 2017, and it's a really longer story because BGOC really has been a thing in my head since 2012 or so. But when I officially started in 2017, it was always a thought like that I wanted to have a scholarship in my mother's name. Like it was always there. And because I deal with young Black girls, ultimately I'm thinking that maybe I'll start one for young Black boys and name my father. I'm not sure. I mean, since BGOC is about girls, but at any rate, it was always an idea. I wanted to do a scholarship. But it really was the encouragement of my really, really good friend. His name is, and he's a marketing powerhouse. He's like amazing. His name is Martin Berrios, and he's the founder of flawlesscrowns.com. He's also, you can check him out as well at martinberrios.com. But it was him. He attended my mother's memorial back in 2020, virtual memorial, and he was really moved by what he learned about her. And he was like, I see so much of your mom in you now, because he had never had the opportunity to meet her. And at that time, I mentioned to him kind of half-heartedly, like, it was a pandemic, so much was happening, and I was really thinking about, wanting to do BGOC more as a full-time thing. But I told him, I wanted to start a scholarship under my mom's name, under BGOC. And he immediately was like, do it. Martin is amazing. He supports me in like any and everything that I'm doing. So he was like, do it. And then he proceeded to send me the money to fund the first year of the scholarship, which was in 2021. So it really started in 2020, but like I really put it out at the top of 2021. But he he was the first benefactor that I had and financed the winner, who was a wonderful young woman in 2021. You can check out her winning video here, also on the BGOC YouTube channel. But not only in 2021, Martin, he's been a major benefactor of the fund ever since, and even this year in 2022. And I will be just forever grateful to him for his generosity. But even bigger than that, just for believing in the mission and the vision of BGOC and this scholarship idea. So that is what the scholarship is, and that is why I started the scholarship. So I'm going to hop into really quickly a few housekeeping issues, or not issues, but a few quick housekeeping notes. They're not issues. Because this is live, I'm doing it live right this second. It is being recorded. So if you have to jump off, feel free. You can come right back here. It'll be here for you to watch. That is why, in part, I did it on YouTube. It'll be easier to find and all that stuff. The application is the open dates are typically January 16th of every calendar year to March 31st. At the time of this recording, the application has been extended. So it is 2022 right now, but that won't necessarily always be the case. Martin suggested that I extend it, and there were a couple other reasons why I wanted to extend it. Personal reasons of things that I have going on right now, but since it's open right now, you can head over to the website, monicabritton.com /BGOC and click on the Let's Work Together tab on the navigation bar. And then you'll see DPJB. I always mix up my mother's her initials, but you'll see DPJB Memorial Scholarship. And there you can follow along as I go through this walkthrough. And if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat with a Q and a semicolon, then your question, so I can answer them and see them quickly. Let me type that in the chat as well, or make a comment. So the website is monicabritton.com/BGOC. Click Let's Work Together, and then DPJB Memorial Scholarship. So that's coming on into the chat for you. And then, to send a question, I'll put that in too. Please type as follows, you and your question. Awesome. So, and finally, on the housekeeping, if you're watching the replay, let me know. Drop a comment and let me know that you watched the replay. Or if you have a question about the scholarship and it is the replay, or you just didn't ask it live and it's over, you can just email info@monicabritton.com and someone will get back to you. Let me just copy this entire thing. And I'm going to put it in the chat too, in the comments as well. There's that. So for the real reason we're here, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the things that I look for in this when I'm reviewing applications myself with the decision team. And just so you know, because yeah, I wanted to do this. Let me just say this really quickly. I wanted to do this walkthrough because so often I get scholarship applications that are just incomplete, and unfortunately they have to get disqualified because they're incomplete, and I'll go into that a little bit through these tips. But please pay attention to these tips, not just for this scholarship, but for any scholarship or any job application you complete, or any college application that you complete. If you're watching this and you're a junior and you're going to start applying in the fall, please pay attention, because these are real, and these are real things that happen. So the first thing, follow the directions and let me know if you need help. Me or someone from my team can get back to you if you have a question. But seriously, I know that it sounds trite and it's not to be dismissive in any way, but it's very real. Like I was just saying, you know, for years, I managed a scholarship fund at the nonprofit that I worked at. And in the time since launching this scholarship, as well, the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship, and 2 other scholarships actually that I have with my mentee, Lauren, and her awesome nonprofit, imani.org. The amount of submissions that we've had to toss, or that I've tossed just over the years because of not following the directions, is seriously tragic. Like, no joke. It really is super sad. Directions are given for a reason. No scholarship fund or application you ever complete will have you out there and, you know, you just don't know how to complete it. All you have to do is follow the directions as written. Don't try to add anything. Don't not include anything because you don't have it. Don't include anything because you added something extra and you think that makes up for what you missed or something. I have a mentor. She said this to me years ago, and I was like, you know what? So true. Answer the question that's asked. And that goes for anything. But in this, answer the question that's asked. If you need 2 letters of recommendation, one from an educator and one from a community service supervisor, please, and I repeat, please do not, and I repeat, do not submit 2 from a community service person and keep it pushing like, oh, they're not going to notice, because they are going to notice. Think of this, your application, as the written or visual, if video is required, like it is for this scholarship. This is the written or visual written representation of you. And you want to present as excellent as possible in this whole process, because I'm not going to say perfect, because, you know, we know perfection does not exist, but you want to represent yourself well. You know, so submitting outside of the directions is a poor representation, because it means that either you didn't read the requirements, or worse, I guess you didn't care. And both are an absolute no go. So my suggestion is to read the directions in full. Read them. Don't even jump into the application and start trying to complete it. Read the application in full before starting anything, and then you can complete it. You can, like, you read it first and you know what you need. You can gather the information that you need, and then you'll be well on your way to being able to complete it easier, complete it faster, and it's just a better way to go in all ways. So you won't make mistakes. I mean, shoot, I have made so many mistakes because I didn't read first and played myself and got, missed out, or had to go redo something or fix something. It's not even necessary. So read first, follow the directions. And again, with this, if you need any assistance, you have a question about anything, like I said earlier, email info@monicabritton.com, and we'll be more than happy to help you submit the right thing. Next is think about your essay answer. As I mentioned, the essay portion of this scholarship, of the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship, that's a lot to say, is video. It's a video essay question, and that's how you answer it. And that's for two reasons. The first one is because I think it's easier to do a video than to sit and write. That's just my feeling. And selfishly, on my end with the decision team, it's easier for us to watch videos as opposed to read, the different submissions that come in, and dedicate our time to read over written submissions. So even though you're submitting video, though, that doesn't mean, just coming in here and speaking off the top of your head, submitting in that way and answering the question in real time. Think about it, jot down some notes, maybe even, outline the points you want to hit, because it still should be structured as if you're writing, and then you can record it because you know what you're going to say. You're not coming off like you don't know what's happening or what you're really trying to say. Practice what you're going to say a few times before you start to record it. That will help you. I mean, just like I did with this session, I have an outline and like a bit of a script, and you might see me looking to the side because that's what I'm looking at, because I don't want to forget any points. But I did that so I could remember what I wanted to say, and I didn't come off rambling like I'm talking off the top of my head. And now going back to the directions part that I just mentioned, film in landscape, which is long ways. Here's my phone. Film this way for this scholarship. Don't film portrait, because as soon as I see it that way, or as soon as we see it, it's going to get your application tossed. This allows us to see you in full. It allows us to be clear, make sure that the lighting is right. Like, you can see me here, you can hear me, make sure you're audible when you're recording your essay answer. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not asking anybody to do a whole studio setup. Like, this is literally my house that you see behind me. But we do need to be able to hear what's being said and be able to see the person saying it. So, this is also your time to smile and to use your outside voice, because I know you have an outside voice. Listen to me, because I can be very shy sometimes, but when I have to do this, when I have to present for BGOC or whatever, like, I have to talk. I have to use my voice so people can hear me. So no whispering, no, darkness, you're in the corner someplace recording. This is your time to convince myself and the decision team why you should be this year's winner of the scholarship. So think about everything that I just said. You answer, rehearse, all of those things, so you can present correctly. See, I'm talking off the top of my head right now, and that's why I'm rambling. So let me go on to the next slide. Excuse me. Which is submit it on time, please, and thanks. There was a friend of mine who was in the military, and he used to say always, all the time, like when somebody was late, he was working with a young men's program, and he used to say, early is on time is late. I'm sure you heard that. But I heard a newer version recently, which I thought was like, oh my goodness. It said, early is on time is late, and late is forgotten. And I was like, oh, yikes. I mean, and you know what? That is so true. And in this instance, the scholarship application will close when it says it does. So if you try to submit later, like 15 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes after the mentioned time that the application closes, you'll have missed it. And in addition, sometimes, honestly, it's like applications are so close that it comes down to what time the application was submitted. So if somebody submitted their application like on, I don't know, today, and then you submitted your application on the deadline and you're super close with that person, we might look and see, wow, well, this person over here who submitted early, they took it kind of, more seriously. They submitted, it was on point, all of those things. And it really might come down to that. I have seen this happen. It happened with the fund that I oversaw at the nonprofit. And at that time, we used to do in-person interviews. And one interviewee was 5 minutes late, 5 minutes to her interview time. And it cost her $5,000. It was tragic. It was sad, but that's what happened. And this goes for like the entire college app. I know that the entire application of, for colleges and scholarships and all of that, it's been full of deadlines that you have to remember to submit by. And when I was doing that, I got to say, it really prepared me for understanding college and realizing that what my high school teachers accepted and what yours probably accept too, the late papers and asking to redo a project because I was like late in my planning and poor planning on my behalf, it wasn't acceptable in college. Like, it just wasn't. I mean, I don't want to make the college professors out to be ogres or something because they're not, but literally they have hundreds of U's to grade papers for and tests for. It's not just your class of 30 or like, if your teacher has a couple classes, like 30 or 60 kids, 90 kids even. And this is no disrespect to like high school teachers, because much respect to them. I mean, because their workload is a whole other beast that they need to be commended for, a whole other like expectation level of what they do, how they engage their students. But all I'm saying is, like, don't look at the myriad of deadlines right now that you're experiencing as too much. Like, it's, oh my gosh, like I can't deal with this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Deadlines are a way of life. When you get into like living, you got to be on time with your rent. You got to be on time with your bills. You got to be on time, for appointments. So it's, even after college, it's important to realize and to be able to stick to deadlines. So it's not just about learning their importance now, but sticking to them will pay dividends in the end once you are out in life. And again, if there are any questions, please feel free to put it in the comments and I will check them out at the end of this. And we're more than halfway done now. So we're almost done. The next tip on how to crush this scholarship, this one is really near and dear to me. Like, yeah, this one is really near and dear. Community service is a sticking point. Like, yeah, it is. I mean, because as long as I can remember, I had a servant's heart from when I was young and would do things for kids in school who were teased, for instance, or who weren't in the popular crew. I'd befriend them. Or to my teenage years, and I became the block captain on my street. In college, I joined a sorority to do community service on a broader level, and with thousands of women across the world, to choosing to leave that glamorous music career that I had to work at a nonprofit that was focused on community development. Like the slide says, I care about your grades, but I care a lot about how you give back in service more. Just because someone submits an application with a GPA of, say, 94, if their service game isn't there and I don't really see it like that, it takes something away from the application for me. I have even though it's a decision team, I have the end answer. And on the flip side, though, if a submission has hundreds of hours of service, but the grades are suffering, like that's also a concern too, because you're going to college for an education, not to do community service and get a degree for it. So back to that nonprofit that I oversaw and the scholarship community. One year, this is a quick story. One year we had a student who went to an amazing school, like totally an amazing school, impressive school. He came to the interview, he was suited down like it was Wall Street. And he had super strong grades. His interviewing was great, like it really was. But he was like meh on the community service side. And juxtapose that with a student who was a finalist as well. And his grades were okay. I mean, they were like in the 80s. He was fine. He dressed nice and clean, but he wasn't suited. Like this other guy was suited, like suit, tie, dress shirt, all of it. But the other young man, he wasn't, he was nicely dressed, like I said. In the interview, though, it was two things that took him over. In the interview, we could tell he was completely himself and he was not trying to sell a version of himself, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that the other gentleman was, per se, as much as he was, he was really groomed to interview. And then the other guy who was dressed nicely, he had, I mean, his verifiable community service was like through the absolute roof. So guess who won that year? Guess who was the winner that year? Now, while I'll just tell you, because while neither one of them was the top winner, because that went to a young lady that year, the second student who had the amazing community service, he came in second. And the other student who was all suited, he came in third. Like, the fact of the matter is, from my perspective and why this scholarship exists, and I think about my mother because she had an amazing community service spirit and a give back spirit, we need each other in this world to survive, which also requires compassion for other people. Now, while giving back selflessly in service shows that you have compassion for other people. In pre-COVID time, community service requirement for this scholarship was 80 hours across an applicant's junior and senior years only in high school. Now it's been revised, understanding that, COVID, but it's been revised as of the recording of today to 40 hours across your entire high school career, which I hope is an easier benchmark to hit. And I think that it should be simple. So, if you haven't been able to do community service in the last couple of years, my hope is that you've done them or done some hours and really gave back and gave from your heart, in your freshman and sophomore years, or now that schools are back open, you've been, stepping up your game and doing some more community service. So the final, sorry, I'm trying to get I told you at the top of this, the tech was a mess. The final tip on how to crush the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship is recommendations. This scholarship asks for 3 recommendations. Let me get in the camera. 3 recommendations, all to be emailed directly to info@monicabritton.com. So back to following the instructions for a second. Applicants who submit recommendations that are outside of what I'm about to say, it's an automatic disqualification. There should be 2 from educators who know you and 1 from a community service supervisor, not your coworker at your community service, but the person that you report your hours to or keeps track of your hours. And in most instances, that should be the person that's writing this recommendation for you. The recommendations from educators should be from folks in your high school career. Don't go back to your 4th grade teacher asking for a recommendation. And how can you use these recommendations to crush this application? Be sure that the recommender understands the mission of the scholarship, that it's helping first-gen college students, young women who will be first-gen college students, that it's heavy on community service, making sure that you served and you have a giving spirit. Reading these recommendations gives me and the decision team a different insight. Like it says on the slide, it gives us it's an extension of you. It gives us a different insight into who you are as a person. Where do you excel? What is a weakness or 2 that you have? How and why will going to college make you better? Sometimes students get generic recommendations from teachers because they need them at the last minute. And I don't recommend that for anything that you have to do, any application that you have to do. You should always get a recommendation from someone who knows you well and can speak to who you truly are in the most honest way possible. Recommendations, excuse me, that just say, you did the required community service or seem general won't help you rise to the top of the yes list, especially in this forum with the Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial. I can remember my mother's last name. Dorothy Pearl Jones Britton Memorial Scholarship is not going to move you to the top of the yes list if it's so generic. And bigger than all of that, think of the people that you ask for recommendations as the people you will have in your network for the foreseeable future. And what do I mean by that? This isn't just a recommendation for this scholarship or a few other scholarships or even for a college application or something like that. But maybe you'll want to go back to this person for a recommendation for an internship over the summer, or a job once you graduate. That is why having strong professional relationships with your recommender is like so important. So really think about who you're asking, because that person is an extension of the decision folks being able to understand who you are. Told you a couple slides back that we were almost done, and we're done. Thank you so much for joining me today for this live here on YouTube. This was so fun. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, period, because I do what I do at BGOC because in this and everything that I do, there are things that I didn't know as a first-generation college student, and I don't want young women who are first-gen college students, like, stumbling and trying to figure it out like I was. And I want to also invite you to check out the other videos here on the channel. I love doing this series. It's called Lunch and Learn. And that's a few minutes with me. And I give one actionable takeaway, it's usually more than that, for first generation college students currently in high school or college. And finally, if you find this kind of content helpful and you're in the 11th or 12th grade in high school, or you're a first-year student in college, again, all of this is first generation, I invite you to join me in my membership community, College Knowledge University, where you'll have access to me, college admissions folks, other professional experts that will make your journey into and while in college a success. The cost to be in College Knowledge University, or CKU as I call it, is nominal, but by joining, the outcome is like totally massive. Like, it really, you're in a community, you feel, you can just ask questions at any point on a whim. Like, it could be in the middle of the night. While we might not get back to you in the middle of the night, but we will get back to you the next day with an answer to that question. It's just a really great place to be. So CKU, College Knowledge University, I will leave the link in the caption below. So again, I want to thank you for joining me today. I had a ball. I hope you did too. You know what? Here, go here for go to the website for College Knowledge University, and click again. Let's work together. And there you'll find the link to get more information about College Knowledge University and everything else that I'm up to and doing. So any questions, email info@monicabritton.com. I don't see any questions in the chat, in the comments right now, which is totally fine. And because I'm always here, people don't usually like to ask questions like outright because they're a little nervous or embarrassed. I get it. I don't want to say I don't know why, because I totally do. But this was great. I had a great time, and I look forward to seeing you the next time I do something live here, or you making a comment on one of my Lunch and Learns, or even emailing me with your needs for your time in college. So have a great day.